My name is Haley Patterson, and at 26 years old, I've lived a life I never imagined. Mom abandoned me when I was pregnant. I fought for 4 years in a shelter. Now, she wants back in my daughter's life after learning who her dad is. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. I informed my mother I was pregnant at 22. She gave me 2 hours to pack and leave, declared I could handle the penalties of becoming a changed locks while sitting on the front step with 2 garbage bags of clothes and nowhere to go. My daughter's father was a college freshman orientation one-night stand. Ethan was visiting from Switzerland, but I didn't know his last name. Never saw him again after that night. He didn't know his number or school. I quit school, moved into a shelter, and left Lily in a county hospital while my mother told everyone I went to Vegas to strip. Hell lasted 4 years. Customers grabbed my ass for $3 tips while waiting tables at a restaurant. Black mold and insects at a studio. Lily slept in a dresser drawer because I couldn't afford a cot. Food stamps. WIS appointments. Trekking 4 miles to work since the bus didn't leave early. My mother's 4-bedroom house was 25 minutes distant. Without calling or visiting, she informed family I was deceased. My sister Rachel surreptitiously met me at Parks and brought Lily secondhand clothes, but she was too terrified to do more. Mom threatened to cut her off if she helped me. I succeeded, though. I got my GED online while Luke slept. She started community college at 3, got better waitressing gigs, saved money, and relocated to a safer apartment. Lily was smart, humorous, read at 4, and did basic math before school. Everything I did was for her. I saw a guy enter my restaurant last month. An expensive suit with a Swiss accent stared at me. I was finally asked if I attended State University 4 years prior. My heart stopped. Ethan became Benjamin Foster. His family ran luxury hotels across Europe. After his cousin gave him my university orientation archive photo, he searched for me for 3 years. He hired detectives, investigated social media, and spent thousands to find a female he'd spent one night with because he couldn't forget me. I introduced him to Lily and her photo. He sobbed at the restaurant. His father pushed him to marry Ace. Benjamin declined, thinking of the American girl who drunkenly quoted Shakespeare and laughed at his bad jokes. His desire was to meet Lily quickly. In a week, he set up a trust fund for her, bought us a house, and demanded $8,000 a month for 4 years of child support. His family traveled up from Switzerland and lavished Lily with love and presents. My mother returned then. She came to my new residence with flowers and tears, admitting her mistake. She missed us a lot. Family should pardon my neighbors. Informed her about the Mercedes in my driveway, Swiss registration plates, and high-end store delivery vans. She knew Benjamin's identity and family value from her investigation. Since Lily had a trust fund and Swiss finishing school potential, she wanted to be involved. I let her in and speak. She talked about second chances, my youth, and her desire for the best. After seeing Lily's photo with Benjamin's family at their Swiss house, she was beaming. "We should plan her 6th birthday together," remarked. "Maybe in Switzerland. I've always wanted to see Geneva." Benjamin entered from the kitchen. He heard everything. My mother looked radiant, extended her hand, and gushed about her granddaughter. Benjamin thought her hand was sewage-covered. He said, "You're the woman who threw out your pregnant daughter." My mother mumbled, "Stern love and duty." Benjamin flashed her something on his phone. Her face blanched. "The shelter where your daughter spent her first month homeless sent this police report. She was abandoned as a youth. Her social services file shows she requested for emergency housing at 7 months pregnant. This hospital report shows she gave birth alone as impoverished. Want me to continue?" Benjamin interrupted my mother's explanation. He swiped to another screen and faced her. He spoke quietly yet sharply. The shelter intake form had my name at the top and a red checkbox for abandoned minor. My mother started speaking, but Benjamin interrupted her to ask whether she wanted him to finish his investigator's 4-year paperwork. I halted outside the kitchen doorway, grasping the frame, watching her make excuses. She said she didn't grasp how awful things were, thought I'd figure it out, and was angry and afraid. Benjamin showed medical and social services paperwork like court evidence as he navigated through additional screens without looking away. Tears mingled with my mother's foundation, which she'd meticulously applied before coming here. She spun around and trembled, saying she'd been so scared, made a terrible mistake, and thought about me every day. I moved back before she could touch me and spoke calmly when I ordered her to go. Benjamin supported me as I opened the front door without speaking. My mother stood in the midst of my new living room, looking shocked. She requested that we chat so she could explain. I held the door open with my heart racing so loudly I felt everyone could hear it, but my hand didn't shake the knob. She collected her handbag and flowers and walked by me with her head down and more tears. Before closing the door, I saw her get into her car and drive away, then rested against it for a bit as my legs weakened. Benjamin and I sat at the kitchen table after I verified that Lily was still sleeping upstairs, her nightlight flickering softly through her door gap. He apologized for ambushing me with the documents, saying he'd paid detectives to find me and gathered everything. He saved my complete survival story in the files in case I needed evidence. I held a chilly mug of tea as we discussed what to do. Instead of pushing for immediate family visits and plans with Lily, he startled me by proposing we start with formal paternity confirmation. He wanted everything legal and safeguarded, since Lily and I deserved it after handling a debt for so long. 3 days later, we saw Samantha Harper in her downtown office with thick carpet and framed legal degrees. She was younger than expected, maybe mid-30s, with a functional suit and no-nonsense face. Samantha stated that Benjamin hired her to serve my interests, not his, and that she worked for me alone, even though he paid her. She explained how to get a court-admissible DNA test. Having a lawyer who responded just to me was weird, but safer than imagined. Samantha took notes on a yellow legal pad while she asked comprehensive questions regarding protected items and my biggest concerns. Before test results arrived, she explained financial constraints with a packet of paperwork. Benjamin immediately placed back child support into an escrow account that would release following official paternity confirmation. He couldn't take the house. He bought back whatever occurred between us since it was in my name with legal safeguards. I was intimidated by page after page of jargon and phrases, but Samantha described each portion in straightforward English. She listed every precaution she'd taken to protect Lily and me in case something went wrong. My palm cramped as I signed where she instructed, but I was glad for every word that prevented ambiguity. After we finished, Rachel texted me that Mom was phoning every relative. She told them I kept Luke a secret out of anger and was cruel for not letting her be a grandma. The old worry of familial isolation hit strongly, that sensation of isolation that marked the past 4 years. I reassured myself that most of their family thought I was a Vegas dancer. Anyhow, they never contacted me when I needed support. Lily glanced up at me curiously as we sat on her bed with her plush rabbit under one arm that evening. I just stated that a European acquaintance I'd known before she was born wanted to meet her. I promised her we'd take our time to figure out whether he was pleasant. I didn't call him father since nothing was proven and I wouldn't break my commitments. Lily nodded earnestly and inquired whether the buddy enjoyed cartoons too. I didn't know, but she could ask him questions and determine how she felt. At the end of the first week, we gathered at a lovely Saturday morning public park with newer equipment and wood chips instead of concrete. Benjamin brought a cheap soccer ball and asked Lily about her favorite color and playgrounds. Standing partially behind my leg, she was timid at first, but interested enough to say she enjoyed purple and swings. I saw them kick the ball on the grass from near. Benjamin moved slowly and spoke softly. Lily stopped the ball with her foot and inquired why he spoke strangely, tilting her head like a jigsaw figure. Benjamin chuckled warmly and said he was from Switzerland, where people talk differently. He told her McDonald's is there, but the menu is in French and German. I saw him be honest and age-appropriate. Instead of promising trips or gifts, he answered her inquiries like she was a genuine person whose ideas mattered. I watched from a bench as they kicked the ball, near enough to intervene, remote enough to interact. As they played, Lily's guard relaxed, but she still looked at me every few minutes to make sure I was there. My mother left a message on day 8 that I listened to twice before deleting. She said she forgives me for withholding Lily from her for years, that she wanted to go on as a family for Luke and was ready any time I was. I was irritated and fatigued after listening. Dealing with an incomprehensible person exhausts you to the core. I didn't call back because I needed time to ponder and was done jumping into hurtful things. The phone stayed quiet on my kitchen counter while I spread peanut butter to Lily's liking for lunch. I understood that not answering was preferable to explaining myself again. I drove straight to work for the early shift after dropping Lily off at kindergarten the next morning. I took my midday break and strolled 3 blocks to the public library where I studied for my GED when Lily was a newborn. I opened up legal information web pages concerning grandparents' rights in our state on an empty computer terminal in the rear corner. The restrictions were strict, requiring proof of a relationship or that stopping contact would harm the kid. My mother had neither, but the websites warned that determined grandparents might file petitions and drag families through thousands of dollars in court fights. I noted legislation, case names, and filing requirements in a notepad. Gathering knowledge made the terror seem smaller, more controllable, like something I could prepare for. I took phone images of the pertinent pages and contacted Samantha Harper with a brief message asking if we should be alarmed. I put on my apron and took dinner orders at the restaurant. Half my thoughts were on legal terms. Samantha's name showed on my phone during my break the next afternoon. She requested a consultation to shield Lily and me from legal harassment, saying that we needed a paper trail and defined limits before my mother could gain legal ground. To accommodate the appointment on Tuesday at 10:00 a.m., I swapped shifts with another server. 2 frequent customers sat in my area on Friday night, speaking loud enough for me to hear about the Mercedes with Swiss plates parked outside and whether I was dating a royal. Though my face burned, I held my pen steady on the order pad and wrote their food choices clearly. A few minutes later, my boss saw me frozen at the kitchen door and discreetly inquired if I was okay, offering to shift me to different tables if people were disturbing me. I thanked him, but claimed I could handle it, though my hands trembled, carrying dishes back to the dining room. Rachel emailed me on Saturday afternoon wondering where we might meet for coffee. I recommended a spot across town along the freeway where no one from our area would know us. She was already in a corner booth when I arrived. She had her college textbook on the table, but her eyes seemed sad. We got coffee, and she said she wanted to help me, but was afraid Mom would cut her off financially because she was only halfway through her degree and couldn't lose her tuition. I grabbed her hand across the table and told her I understood and that she'd helped us more than anybody by smuggling supplies throughout those terrible years. We sobbed quietly and wiped them away so other customers wouldn't see. Monday morning's DNA test in a downtown medical facility with official documentation and chain of custody protocols seemed more serious than expected. A technician in blue scrubs described each process on labeled paperwork and swabbed Lily's face and Benjamin with long cotton sticks. Lily laughed and asked whether they were checking for cavities like the dentist, and Benjamin grinned and mumbled something similar. We decided silently not to tell her what the test was for until we received results, keeping our explanations basic, honest, and not intimidating. Lily ran to the car, saying the stick tickled, while Benjamin and I looked relieved. Week 3's legal session saw Samantha distribute alternatives over her conference table like cards in a tricky game. We could file for court-ordered custody, set privacy measures to protect this from becoming viral, and send my mother a cease and desist letter if she kept bothering us. Though the paperwork seemed unending, stacks of documents needing signatures and notarization. The clarity helped. Benjamin and I spent 2 hours that afternoon creating a co-parenting framework that began with supervised visits and increased dependent on Lily's comfort. Samantha proposed realistic timetables with holiday and sick day backups, making it feel reasonable rather than intimidating and overwhelming. While waiting for test results, we signed the document in good faith with official signatures at the bottom. Lily's school number appeared on my phone during my supper shift on Thursday. The administrator said calmly but firmly that my mother had come to the office pretending to be the grandmother and inquired about pickup procedures. Telling my manager I had an emergency, I left work immediately, my hands quivering with protective wrath, and drove 6 blocks to school. The administrator said they hadn't published any information and asked if I wanted to file a formal restriction to prevent repeat incidences. I agreed without hesitation, filling out the papers at the office as Lily played on the playground, unconscious of what occurred. The next day, Samantha wrote to my mother to set a no-contact limit and warn her that any additional attempts to access Lily or propagate family rumors would result in legal action. Signing it felt me sick with remorse, but oddly strong, like I was choosing safety above peace for the first time in my life. After Lily went to bed, I started a secret notebook of every mother-related encounter, voicemail, and incident. Samantha suggested it may matter in court, but it helped me process, organizing chaos into written facts. Recording what happened made it difficult to mistrust myself afterward since it couldn't be changed. The next afternoon, Benjamin brought a European furniture brochure with sticky notes advertising $20,500 dollhouses to my flat. He spread the catalog on my kitchen table and pointed to a Victorian-style mansion with working lights and hand-carved details, saying, "Lily deserved beautiful things after the years we'd struggled." The price tag made my stomach twist because it was more than 2 months of my old rent, more than I'd spent on apartment furnishings. I told him it was too much too quickly and that Lily was 5 and would be fine with a $40 plastic toy shop one. He appeared perplexed and upset, as if he didn't understand why pouring money at everything wasn't the answer. I told him that experiences were more important than costly things after 20 minutes of discussion. Visiting the children's museum or zoo would make nicer memories than a playhouse she'd outgrow. Instead of resisting, Benjamin suggested we take a weekend vacation to the Science Center with Lily's favorite interactive displays. That willingness to listen and alter direction was more valuable than any gift. A courier delivered the DNA findings 3 days later in an official package with lab seals and legal stamps. Benjamin came over that night and we reviewed pages of genetic markers and chance percentages on my couch, confirming what we already knew. Lily came in from her room, where she'd been coloring, and sat on the couch with us, keeping our voices low. Benjamin informed her he was her daddy and had been seeking us for a long time. He didn't know about her before, but now he did and wanted to be part of her life. Lily thought over this silently, her face serious, like youngsters attempting to grasp something profound. She wondered whether she had Swiss grandparents like her friend Maya did in California. We replied sure that her whole family wanted to meet her when she was ready, but only when she felt comfortable. She nodded and resumed coloring, perhaps needing time to reflect. Samantha Harper recommended Catherine Wilson, a child therapist who helped with youngsters going through big family transitions. The next morning when we met, we planned an intake visit for the next week to give Lily time to process without intervention. Professional support didn't accept failure, Samantha said. It protected Lily from adult overload. Learning to seek aid didn't make me weak. It meant I was knowledgeable enough to recognize our guiding needs. I spotted a strange local area code on my phone that afternoon while working at the restaurant. I was requested to call back for a remark on the secret air myth circulating online. When the reporter said she'd heard about Benjamin's daughter and wanted to check details before writing, my palms started trembling. I panicked and phoned Samantha from the restaurant restroom. She urged me to enact the privacy strategy we agreed, which included no media interaction and letting the story die from lack of information. We decided to remain silent and use silence as a defense. My mother's handwriting appeared on a big envelope in my mailbox, jabbed 2 days later. She apologized for her blunders, but also listed all the locations she wanted to take Lily and suggested we organize a family trip to Switzerland in a 5-page letter. She talked about missing us and how families should forgive, but every phrase had chains and demands that I forget 4 years of desertion. After reading it again, I saw how she was attempting to get back in by pretending everything was forgiven, and we were a happy family again. Her goal was to enter Lily and Benjamin's world without proving herself. The letter joined the other material in my documents folder. I met Catherine Wilson in her office the following Tuesday while Benjamin waited in the lobby. Her inquiries included Lily's habits, personality, how she'd handled changes before, and what frightened me most about this move. Benjamin arrived, and we discussed the problem from our views as Catherine took notes. After an hour, she brought Lily in for a calm, age-appropriate session with toys and painting tools. Catherine casually questioned Lily about her family and feelings as she sketched and played with miniature dolls. Catherine concluded that we should maintain Lily's routine stable and introduce changes gradually, allowing her control over relationship building. She offered us scripts for discussing difficult things and checking in with Lily without interrogating her. Rachel contacted that night, asking if I'd consider monitored, restricted contact with our mother to avoid her filing for grandparents' rights out of spite. I stared at my phone, torn between protecting Rachel and knowing my mother hadn't yet gained access to Lily. I wanted to ease my sister's burden after years of discreetly aiding us. However, another part of me realized that manipulating to avoid conflict was how my mother had ruled everyone for decades. I told Rachel I needed to consider and consult my lawyer. Samantha showed me the state's grandparents' petition laws the next morning, demonstrating that my mother had practically little standing to claim visitation without an actual relationship. She offered mediation initially as a good faith gesture that would establish legal paperwork if my mother was unreasonable. We could show a court we attempted to resolve problems, and my mother was the hurdle. I consented to mediation if strong restrictions were drawn out concerning contact and limits. That afternoon, the reporter left another note on my apartment door. This one offered to meet off the record to hear my perspective before others warped the narrative. I grasped the page, wanting to correct the record and control the story. I remembered Samantha's advice that engaging provided the tailfire and attention, and that silence was the fastest way to make it uninteresting and useless. I shredded and tossed away the note. Catherine had Lily draw her family and feelings during her second therapy appointment the following week. Lily sketched a question mark-filled thinking bubble over her head in the middle. After Catherine gently questioned what she was worried about, Lily stated she was afraid her daddy would leave again like he did, even though she knew he didn't know about her. We addressed her concern by calling it out instead of pretending everything was normal. Benjamin brought a large craft shop bag that weekend, and we sat at the kitchen table with Lily. He took out a blank monthly calendar with large daily squares and 2 sheets of stickers with airplanes, video cameras, hearts, and stars. Lily gasped and grabbed the stickers as Benjamin explained that we were constructing a chart to illustrate when he would visit and when they would communicate on the internet. I saw her carefully choose purple hearts for video call days and gold stars for in-person visits from the stickers. Benjamin pointed to each spot and let her place stickers to tally the days between visits. Although she glued them somewhat wrong and overlapping, she was really earnest. She wanted to hang it in her room immediately once we completed. We tacked it on her bedside wall so she could view it every morning. She adored it and begged for more stickers for birthdays and other special days. Benjamin agreed and gave her the full sheet, and seeing them plan relaxed me. Benjamin called 3 days later when I was doing laundry to ask if his parents could have some Lily photographs for their family album. I dropped my shirt as my body stiffened. I told him I needed to think and we could discuss later. After we hung up, I felt my protective walls slam back, thinking of strangers across the ocean seeing images of my baby. That night, Samantha Harper helped me see that some photo sharing was okay, but could set harsh regulations. The next day, I offered Benjamin 3 shots I would choose with a signed agreement that nothing got on social media and the photo stayed with his close family. He accepted without hesitation and thanked me for trusting him to share so much. I chose 3 photographs from last month of Lily reading, playing at the park, and smiling. Sending them seemed like giving up bits of her I couldn't guard, but I did it because Benjamin had gained trust. Rachel missed 5 calls the next morning. I contacted her back, and she said to check Mom's Facebook immediately. My stomach was turning as I opened the app and saw a new album called My Precious Girls with 20 childhood images of Rachel and myself. The subtitles mentioned happy memories, strong family relationships, and her gorgeous kids. I barely remembered birthday and holiday photos. Everyone before I became pregnant, no photos from the previous 4 years because she wasn't there. Many relatives commented on how pleasant the memories were and how great a mother she must be. Reading her rewrite history for the ignorant made me ill. Rachel had screenshotted and forwarded me every photo and description for proof. She wanted me to document Mom's activities in case it mattered. I saved everything to an evidence folder on my phone and attempted to use the herd instead of falling into old doubts. That afternoon, Samantha Harper called to say she'd organized mediation with family conflict specialist Victoria Clark. The agreement included ground guidelines for the 2 sessions. My mother had to apologize for each action, pledge to commence treatment within a week, and agree in writing that any contact with Lily was my decision with no time frame. Samantha stated my mother's lawyer read the agreements and she'd attend. I was startled she agreed to such harsh restrictions, but Samantha reminded me that my mother probably assumed she could charm her way through mediation and get what she wanted. We'd see if she followed through or if it was manipulation. 2 nights later, I worked dinner at the restaurant, and everything was okay until table 12. I accepted his order as usual when a Thursday regular sat down. He grinned at me as I brought his dinner and shouted loudly enough for surrounding tables to hear that I'd found a rich Swiss guy. Was I sure I hadn't captured him intentionally? My face was burning as I froze with the plate in my hand. I carefully set the plate down and requested him to stop since it was unacceptable. He laughed like a joke, but my manager heard from across the room. She approached and politely ordered him to pay his payment and go. She refused to let him argue and claimed the restaurant didn't allow customer harassment. He fled after throwing cash on the table as customers watched. My boss massaged my shoulder and urged me to take a 5-minute back break. I stood in the kitchen shivering with fury and relief that someone supported me. Benjamin and I met with our lawyers at Samantha Harper's office the following Monday. She meticulously planned a temporary parenting plan. Benjamin visited every other weekend for 6 hours on Saturday and Wednesday night video calls. Structured, documented financial help would be provided. We had to agree on Lily's schooling, health, and hobbies. Typing was formal with signatures and witness lines. Ben and I signed to numerous copies of our names at the conference table across from each other. It was safer to document everything in legal terminology than to trust each other. The framework protected Lily most, preventing us from making hasty changes without procedure. Samantha submitted the plan with the court that afternoon, making it official. Victoria Clark's downtown office hosted the mediation on a dreary Thursday morning. My mother was on time, dressed well, and bringing tissues in her handbag. Victoria sat between us and discussed the regulations before we began. My mother sobbed instantly, claiming she'd made a horrible mistake since she was young and afraid when I became pregnant. But then she justified teaching me responsibility and saying rough love was best. Though my heart was racing and I interrupted her, I maintained cool. I wanted her to admit acts without excuses. I told her everything she did, asking her to confirm she recalled pushing me out with 2 hours' notice, changing the locks, denying communication for 4 years, and telling relatives I was dead. She sobbed more, but explained her rationale. Victoria stopped her and explained the exercise required unjustified acknowledgement. My mother wanted to defend herself, but she decided to write everything down as homework. Victoria agreed to evaluate her writing 2 weeks later. The next day, Catherine Wilson and I discussed mediation. She attentively reviewed Victoria's notes and inquired about the session. I told her hearing my mother weep was harder than imagined, but I was glad I demanded accountability. Catherine helped me consider if Lily could safely undergo supervised contact. She stated my mother had to show continuous improvement, not merely apologize and demand access. Together we set criteria: 6 months of weekly treatment with attendance verification, written accountability for her behavior without excuses or explanations, and no pushback or manipulation of my boundaries. We would contemplate a supervised meeting between her and Lily only if she regularly met all 3 standards. I liked the timeline because it let my mother work while safeguarding Lily from a stranger. The reporter's account appeared in a local internet news site Saturday morning. I forced myself to read it with coffee, expecting horror. It respected and prioritized privacy rights for complicated families. After the writer fact-checked everything and I declined to respond, much of it was legal boundary conjecture that faded off within 2 days. It wasn't rumor, which reassured me. Some coworkers saw it, but nobody asked. Rachel texted me that afternoon. Mother texted her all morning moaning that I was hiding her kid from her and begged Rachel to talk to me on her behalf. This time, Rachel didn't relay Mom's concerns or intervene. She contacted me to say she'd advised Mom to work with the mediator and ceased using her as a go-between. She stated she was tired of being in the middle and that Mom needed to gain our trust by her actions. I responded back, thanking her and praising her for putting that barrier. Rachel seems to be finding her voice instead of pleasing everyone. I made Lily breakfast the next morning, and Benjamin asked if we could meet at the park near my place to discuss his schedule. We sat on a seat as Lily played on the swings 20 feet away where I could see her. He showed us his phone calendar and advised staying for a week instead of 3 days, claiming his family wanted more time with Lily and he could work remotely from the hotel. I tensed up and told him the therapist had said gradual increments were best for Lily, that leaping from 3 to 7 days was too rapid. He looked agitated, ran his hand through his hair, and argued she was all right. I stopped him and indicated that she appeared okay, so we shouldn't press harder, that youngsters often displayed stress unexpectedly. Later, he sat quietly while Lily pumped her legs on the swing, then nodded and said he understood, even though leaving was hard when things were well. I liked that he listened instead of arguing and slowed down. even if it was against his will. We promised to stay 3 days this time and add 1 day next month if Lily adjusted well. We felt like we were learning to work together instead of just sacrificing to maintain the peace. Victoria Clark emailed me an attachment 3 days later showing my mother's first therapy intake appointment. A qualified therapist signed a paper confirming the session date and time and a treatment plan outlined for weekly visits. I glanced at the document for a while, hoping, but primarily suspicious. An appointment didn't erase 4 years of desertion or decades of her controlling and conditional behavior. Victoria Clark's email was professional and impartial, recognizing improvement without exaggerating it. She reminded me that lasting transformation takes months, not weeks, and that this was only the first step. I added the email to my mediation documents folder, adding to the accumulating mountain of evidence that chronicled everything. That afternoon, I traveled to my former neighborhood for the first time since moving. After 3 years in that dingy studio apartment with Lily, I parked outside. The front door paint was still flaking, and the parking lot still had oily water puddles. The memories weighed me down while I sat with the engine running and windows open, the mildew scent that persisted despite bleaching. Lily cried from hunger as I waited for my salary to buy formula. Because the bus didn't arrive early for my shift, I walked 4 kilometers to work in the dark, counting pennies to determine if I had enough for the laundromat or another week of unclean clothing. My daily worry and calculation of which bill to skip to eat. I clutched the steering wheel and remembered why I was careful, why I doubted everything, erected safety nets, and put off trusting others. That wasn't paranoia or difficulty. I learned that by surviving without aid. That instinct kept Lily and me alive when we had nothing. I left the building after 10 minutes and drove home to our safe, roach-free flat, feeling grateful and frustrated at how hard it was. Lily sobbed into her pillow that night at being confused. Sat on the bed edge, I inquired what was confusing her. She wondered why she had to travel to Benjamin's hotel instead of his coming to our place. It was strange having 2 locations and not knowing which was home. Watching her struggle to understand something at her age hurt my chest. I took her favorite plush rabbit from the shelf and told her we would make a routine for between residences. She and I practiced in her room. The bunny went in her little backpack first. We sang the ABCs while she put on her shoes. Her 3 embraces and my 3 kisses preceded her departure. We'd rehearse everything when she got home. She stopped weeping and made me rehearse it 5 times before she remembered. By the end, she laughed when I pretended to forget the letter after M. I tucked her up and promised to repeat the process every time to make her feel safe no matter where we were. Victoria Clark's office hosted the mediation follow-up on Tuesday morning. Mother arrived 10 minutes early and sat in waiting area with folder on lap. Victoria contacted us again and we sat in the same seats, same distance apart. My mother took 3 handwritten papers from her folder. Victoria requested her read them aloud. My mother's voice trembled as she listed her actions, including pushing me out with 2 hours' notice when I was 18 and pregnant, changing the locks to prevent return, disregarding Rachel's appeals for help, getting me into a shelter, and telling my family I'd become a stripper instead of acknowledging I was homeless. Never attending Lily's birth hospital, even if Rachel told her. Living 25 minutes away for 4 years without checking on us. The list included 2 pages. Reading made her cry, but she didn't apologize or explain. After finishing, she glanced at me and apologized for each mistake. I could see she still wanted to justify herself, but it was more honest than her previous apologies. I sat there letting the words sink without trying to comfort her or assure her everything was okay. I told her this was a first step, not absolution, and that she needed to keep proving herself via acts. After a lengthy quiet, Victoria noted and planned our next check-in for a month. My restaurant manager and I met the next day at lunchtime. I stated that I needed to change my schedule to be home for Lily's nighttime ritual when Benjamin wasn't visiting. We reviewed the staff calendar on his iPad. Instead of 2 nighttime shifts each week, I'd work hectic noon shifts. Lunch shifts paid better due to increased table turnover and more steady business lunch tips. After 3 years of reliability, he gave me first dibs on the calendar and preferred to work with me rather than lose me to another restaurant. I thanked him and felt relieved that all was coming together. Slowly adding logistical breezes made the situation feel more solid and less like it may collapse at any time. Benjamin and I wrote Lily's school statement for 2 hours at a coffee shop. We kept things straightforward. Lily's father was found after a long search. We started co-parenting. Both parents asked that issues and concerns be addressed privately, rather than with other parents or staff. We wanted Lily to be supported without being judged or gossiped about. The principal phoned me that afternoon after Benjamin sent it. She thanked us for being proactive and promised to brief Lily's teacher and front office workers discreetly. They'd record pickup authorization in the system and direct questions to us. She said they'd check for Lily's struggles and notify us promptly. I hung up feeling like we'd spared her some drama. Catherine Wilson called Friday afternoon. She stated she had read all the mediation papers and my mother's treatment documents and felt comfortable approving a brief supervised meeting between us before contacting Lily. The mediation office would host the meeting with Victoria Clark for a safe, impartial environment. Luke would be unaffected if things went wrong since she wouldn't know. Next steps might be considered if everything went well. We booked the meeting on Thursday after I agreed. The next week, I was apprehensive and practiced what I wanted to say, writing and marking out things to prepare for a discussion I didn't know how to have. My monitored meeting was harder than imagined. I sat across from my mother in Victoria Clark's office with Kleenex on the table. Victoria explained the regulations and had my mother read her written apologies. Longer than what she read at mediation, it detailed all 4 years. She described specific occasions she'd denied aid, lied to relatives, and put her pride before my survival. She described receiving Rachel's call that I'd given delivery alone and not going to the hospital. 2 years later, she saw Lily's image for the first time and felt nothing because she believed I deserved it. Though her voice cracked several times, she read. She finished, put the papers down, and sobbed without defending herself. Just sat there and let the words drop. Stopped denying my rage and hurt to make her feel better. After many minutes, I informed her I hurt her. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Though it wasn't okay, I realized that she'd written and read it honestly without justifications. Victoria Clark inquired what my mother should do for me. I stated constant treatment, respect for my boundaries, and time to prove she changed. The rest of the session was devoted negotiating restricted contact. Not allowed overnight visits with Lily till further notice. No unsupervised time with her for 6 months. Lily's health reviewed every 3 months. Whether my mother continued therapy or not, she might be named Grandma, but with tight limitations that could be revoked if she broke any lines. My mother accepted everything without negotiation. She acknowledged she had broken my trust and that it would take years to restore it. Victoria Clark recorded our agreement and promised a written report within 2 days. I left the workplace fatigued, but felt like the limits were now clear and fair. My mother would influence Lily, but only when she'd shown herself trustworthy via continuous activity. I made a park party list on Tuesday night for Lily's birthday 3 weeks away. Balloons, paper plates, a grocery store sheet cake, and maybe tag or duck duck goose. Benjamin spotted my notes on the kitchen table when he dropped off Samantha Harper's papers that night. I told him about the park, how Lily's kindergarten friends would come, and how we'd make it simple and pleasant. He paused, then recommended hiring a princess party business or renting a site with activities. I thanked him, but declined, since 6-year-olds didn't require sophisticated entertainment, and Lily would rather run around with her pals eating cake. He appeared disappointed, but asked how he could assist. I assigned him decorations and games with a $60 budget and a list of dollar store things. The next day, he emailed me photographs of streamers and balloons he'd chosen, wondering if the colors matched. It felt normal to a greater extent than any pricey celebration. My mother called 2 days later while I folded clothes. She suggested Lily visit Switzerland for her birthday, maybe see the Alps, and stay at a family hotel. I paused mid-fold and informed her we were focused on modest local visits and not traveling internationally. She gently objected, stating Lily would learn and the family wanted to meet her. I reiterated that restoring trust required respecting limits without arguing. After quieting down, she stated she understood. No guilt, no manipulation, just acceptance. After hanging up, I was astonished and hopeful that the therapy was working. Samantha Harper had a Friday afternoon office meeting to settle things legally. Benjamin and I arrived to find her conference table covered in papers. Our parenting plan and schedule, child support trust structure, and court filing paperwork. We spent 2 hours reviewing each piece to ensure we understood what we signed. Samantha outlined the trust's monthly payments and how I'd handle them with a financial advisor. She had scheduled an appointment for me with a person who taught individuals who suddenly made money how to budget and invest instead of just consuming. The advisor gave me a business card with her name. First meeting next Tuesday. Benjamin signed everything without hesitation, and I signed with a shake because it seemed so official and permanent. Samantha said she'd file the parenting plan with the court by Monday, and we'd have co-parent status within weeks. After leaving that office, I felt like the ground was finally firm. Benjamin invited me to get coffee and speak, so we walked to a quiet location a few blocks away. He looked uneasy, putting sugar into his espresso, and said his father, Victor Foster, had been phoning him every other day about settling down. His father continued, implying that Lily's existence would legitimate things and change the family position, making me a good match. Benjamin swiftly added that he'd informed his father that romance wasn't on the table just now, and maybe never. We wanted to be steady co-parents first, not an arranged partnership to please his family. He said maintaining a respectful distance was more important than any grand gesture or relationship, and that proving we could work together for Lily was what mattered. I thanked him for being honest and agreed, relieved that we were on the same page. Lily's stability was more important than fairy tale endings. The next week, Victoria Clark sent me an update email saying my mother had completed 3 therapy sessions, and the therapist noted she was engaged seriously with the work. She noted that real change took months or years, not weeks, but the initial signs were encouraging. I read it twice, feeling my automatic skepticism soften into conditional trust. It was hard to believe she'd changed yet, but I could watch her actions to see if they stayed consistent. Words were easy, but showing up to therapy every week and respecting boundaries without complaint was harder. The first supervised visit was on a Wednesday afternoon at a downtown family center. I drove Lily there and walked her inside, where a staff member met us in the lobby. My mother was already in the visit room, sitting at a small table with coloring books and crayons. I stayed in the building, but sitting in the waiting area with a book I couldn't focus on. The staff member had told my mother the rules: no gifts, no promises about future visits, no asking Lily to keep secrets, just simple conversation and activities. After an hour, Lily emerged with a colored butterfly picture. My mother followed behind, keeping a safe distance. She thanked the staff member and left through the side exit as agreed. Lily was quiet in the car, so I didn't push her to talk. When we got home, I made her a snack and sat with her at the kitchen table, asking how she felt about seeing her grandmother. Lily said Grandma was nice but sad, and they'd colored and talked about favorite animals. She wasn't sure if she wanted to see her again soon, maybe in a while, but not next week. I told her that was okay, that she got to decide the pace and nobody would force anything. Her mixed feelings made sense, and I was proud of her for being honest about them. We agreed to think about it and talked to the therapist at our next appointment before Benjamin arrived early to help me set up Lily's birthday party at the park near our apartment on a sunny Saturday morning. Kids started arriving around 10 and call, with parents dropping them off with wrapped presents and promises to pick them up by noon. Lily ran around with her friends playing tag and laughing so hard she got hiccups. We played musical chairs and red light, green light, then brought out the cake with its messy grocery store frosting and 6 candles. Everyone sang, and Lily blew them out in one breath, beaming. My mother arrived at 11:00 for her supervised 30-minute window, quietly watching from the pavilion edge. At the end of her visit, she said goodbye to Lily without fuss and strolled back to her car, departing precisely when she was meant to. I felt something unexpected as I watched her go. The next Tuesday, Rachel met me for lunch at a sandwich shop halfway between our apartments. She looked more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. Over Turkey Club, she told me she wouldn't listen to complaints about me anymore, and that if Mom wanted to talk about me, she could talk to her therapist. Mom initially resisted, but Rachel held firm, and now their conversations were shorter, but less toxic. We talked about what it meant to be sisters instead of just 2 people who survived the same difficult mother, making plans to hang out more often and build our own relationship. It was nice to have an ally who understood where I was and didn't ask me to forgive too quickly. The community college sent my acceptance letter for spring semester classes on Thursday. I'd applied weeks earlier, but hadn't believed it would happen. Business fundamentals, English composition, and intro to accounting. The timetable fit Lily's kindergarten hours and Benjamin's visit days, and I no longer had to choose between textbooks and groceries. I could study instead of working extra shifts. Sitting at my kitchen table with that acceptance letter, I thought about the future I'd always wanted for Lily and myself, the one I'd been building toward for 4 years of hell and survival. It was finally becoming real because I'd fought for it and now had the support to make it happen. For the first time in 6 years, the ground felt solid under my feet, and I was ready to keep moving forward. On Tuesday morning, Benjamin went for Switzerland, and Lily stood at the window, watching his car drive down the street, her palm on the glass. We'd set up the video call schedule, marking specific times on her calendar with stickers she chose. At bedtime, she showed him her room on the tablet, pointed at her toys, and talked about kindergarten. He listened carefully and asked questions, and when we hung up, she counted the days until his next visit using the stickers we'd stuck on the wall calendar. The system worked better than I expected, giving her something concrete to track instead of just waiting and wondering. She knew when to expect him, which made the distance easier, made his absence manageable instead of scary. My mother went to therapy every week, and I got attendance confirmations from her counselor as required. We scheduled monthly supervised visits with checkpoints every 3 months to see if Lily was doing well. The pace was slow, but that was intentional to put Lily's safety first. She arrived on time for visits, followed the rules without fighting, and didn't try to get more access. I was surprised by her lack of drama, as I expected her to test boundaries or make demands. Instead, she seemed to understand that this was her only path back, and she needed to walk it carefully. Rachel started meeting me for coffee every other week, and we talked about things other than our mother, building our own relationship. One night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat in our living room with the lights off, thinking. The apartment was quiet and safe. No comparison to those first nights in the shelter when Lily slept in a dresser drawer because I couldn't afford a crib. I thought about the roaches in our old studio, the customers who grabbed my ass for $3 tips, and walking 4 miles to work in the dark. We needed to remember where we'd been, so I never took this stability for granted. Gratitude and caution lived in my chest, both equally real and necessary. Our new normal was messy, structured, and completely ours. Lily had 2 respectful parents who coordinated schedules and put her needs first, even when it was hard. She had a grandmother who earned her way back in with strict boundaries and regular checkpoints, an aunt who was becoming a real friend instead of a scared sister, and a mother who endured hell and built something solid who knew how much it cost to get here. Nobody was flawless, but everyone was better.